employment service. Here are some requests made by potential job seekers. One wanted a 3-week vacation that started before that person began to work for the company. One wanted a paid membership to the city zoo. One, probably from Memphis, wanted Elvis' birthday off. One wanted medical benefits so he could go see a faith healer. And one wanted pay for the time he spent at night or on the weekends just thinking about work. He thought he should get paid just for thinking about work. You know, and I sit and listen, Wesley, don't hate me, to some of the younger generation and the job seekers in the younger generation. And they assume that they have the power. And they assume that they are entitled to ask for these crazy benefits. So, Jesus didn't play the power game the way people thought that a Messiah should. And then we've got to remember that Jesus did not die like a Messiah. Even as we celebrate the birth of Christ, we've got to anticipate the agony of his death. It was a huge obstacle for the early church, for the first century Jews to believe that the Messiah was the one who was going to deliver Israel from her enemies. Because how could the Messiah die? How could a Messiah die like a criminal on a cross? 1 Corinthians, Paul tells us, he calls it part of the foolishness of God. And in the dying and the resurrection of our Lord and Savior, God has confounded human wisdom, what we would think, so that nobody, none of us, can boast of having either the intelligence or the goodness to have earned salvation. Only one thing, friends, only one thing saves us. Not how smart we are, not our good looks, not any of that. It's how much faith do we have in that babe in the manger and that one who died on the cross. That's all. That's all that'll save us. You know, we wouldn't have done it that way. A scriptwriter in Hollywood wouldn't have done it that way. But even today, and during the next week, and during Christmastide, as we celebrate the joyous event, we must hang on to that thought and be impressed by the thought that our King, the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, offered up his life. Why? Because he loved us. Because he loved us. Because his Father loved us. There was a psychological therapist. His name was Richard Bandler. And he went to a mental institution one day to deal with a man who insisted that he was Christ. And as Bandler walked in to meet with this man, Bandler looked him in the eye and he says, "Are you Jesus?" And the gentleman said, "Yes, my son, I am Christ." And Bandler looked at him, shook his hand, and said, "I'll be back in just a minute." And the man was a little bit confused when Bandler left, but within 3 or 4 minutes, Bandler came back. And he reached in his pocket and he pulled out a measuring tape. And he asked the man to extend his arms. And Bandler measured the span of his arms. And then he measured his height and his legs. And the man said, "What's going on? What are you doing?" And Bandler said, "I'll be back in a minute. Hang on." And at this point, the man became a little bit concerned. And a little while later, the therapist comes back into the room. And this time, he came back with a hammer. And he had some large spiked nails. And he had a long set of boards. And he began to pound them. Now, you see where I'm going. He began to pound them into the form of a cross. And the man looked and he said, "What are you doing?" And as Bandler nailed the last nails into the cross, he looked at the man and he said, "Are you Jesus?" And again the man answered, "Yes, my son." And Bandler looked at him and he said, "Well, if that's the case, you know why I am here." And at that point, the man made a remarkable recovery. And he jumped up from his chair. He said, "No, no, no, I'm not Jesus." Well, that's pretty cruel. It really is cruel. But it helped this man face reality. And the story reminds us that there have been many, many, many people who have come through history and they claim to be the anointed Messiah, but they wouldn't accept the cross. It's no wonder that when Jesus accepted Calvary, when Jesus accepted death, his own people really had problems accepting him as who he said he was. I love Charlie Brown. I love Charlie Brown Christmas special. And Charlie Brown sometimes just cannot get into the Christmas spirit. And then there's Linus, and Linus is always so cool. And Charlie couldn't get into the Christmas spirit, and Linus says to him, "Charlie Brown, you're the only person I know who can take a wonderful season like Christmas and turn it into a great big problem." Well, for those who lived in Jesus' time, Christmas was a problem. They couldn't accept a king from a manger. They wanted the pomp and ceremony. But for us folks, for us who call him Lord, what a gift that babe wrapped in swaddling clothes and in that manger has turned out to be. What a gift God has given to all of us, whether we've been naughty or nice. He offers us the gift. Back in the 80s, the day before Christmas, there was a little boy. His name was Richard Ballinger. And his mother was busy wrapping packages for Christmas. And she asked her son if he would shine her shoes. And so, pretty soon, with that smile that only a little kid who's done something for his mother can produce, he brought the shoes in for inspection. And they were perfect. And his mother was so proud, she reached deep into her purse and she gave him a quarter. Well, on Christmas morning, as Richard Ballinger and his mother got ready to go to church, she put her shoes on. And she noticed that there was a lump down in the toe of one shoe. And she took off that shoe, and down in the toe, wrapped up in a piece of paper, was that quarter. And written on the paper, in a young child's scrawl, were the words, "I've done it for love." He did it for love. The gift that's coming to us, wrapped in swaddling clothes, somewhere in that manger, somewhere in that crib, somewhere in your creche at home, somewhere in your creche of your heart, there's that note that God sent to each one of us. The note says, "I did it because I love you." That's it. It's that love that God has for us, that He doles out so freely, that He doesn't ask what our pedigree is, what our qualifications are, where we live, what we drive, what kind of shoes we wear. All He does is give us love. And when we accept it, we have hope